Welcome to NCMC, everyone, whether or not this is your home, your school, or you're visiting today. My name is Dr. Lenny Claver. I'm the president here. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge that we have some board members in attendance. So we have Mr. Chris Hoffman, Mr. Don Dalrymple, Dr. John Holcomb. I don't think I see anyone else from the board. We also have our cabinet members here, Dr. Landre, Academic Affairs, Dr. Alley, Student Affairs, Jennifer Triplett, our Chief Information Officer. Tyson Otto is over in the business office paying bills, and I told him to stay there. It's a good thing to pay our bills. And Christy Harris, who is our Chief of Staff. So welcome, everyone. Alicia Endicott, our development director. You were hiding behind our St. Joe Press guy. So welcome. This, I believe, is the fourth or fifth forum we've had since I've been here. Last year, obviously, we took the year off because of COVID. But the purposes of this forum is multiple. It is to make sure that our elected officials at the state and federal level have a chance to come to our campus, meet with faculty, staff, board members, students, etc., and that they can mention some of the things that are on the top of their agenda for the coming term, or the terms to come after that, perhaps even. So they also have the opportunity to take some questions, which I hope we have time for when we're done. But the purpose is just to generally get people talking. That's how politics works. And believe me, I think from what I know about politics, there's a heck of a lot of talking that goes on behind the scenes that isn't on camera, isn't on microphone. And, another board member just showed up, Diane Lowry. Hi, Diane.
That's what happens when
You're
you're retired.
excused. You're excused. So anyway, I'm just going to say a few words about the importance of what something like this means for us at the college as well. Many of you from the college have heard me talk often about our strategic plan or strategic plans. And every once in a while I mention three things that are very important to all public institutions, in particular a small community college serving a 16, soon to be 17 county region. Things that are very important to us, number one is access, and access to students to attend college in our region, access to have them funded with programs such as Pell and A+, very important, and also our expansion in our service region into Savannah for a satellite campus and into St. Joseph, and having Buchanan County and some of the partnerships we'll be doing with Missouri Western over there. So access to a community college is extremely important. Excellence. Excellence leads our way in every strategic plan. Academic excellence. So everything we do, whether that's going to be from our academic programs, our student services, we strive for excellence. Not just good enough. Excellence is what we strive for every day. And the final thing that both of those come together to do is impact. We hope that what we do at the college in terms of educating students, providing people places to work, a forum for higher education has an impact on our community and the lives of people in it. So those are three things that are always going to be very important to us here. But you didn't come here to listen to me talk today, so just remember access, excellence, and impact. But we're here for the importance of the legislators' work. As I mentioned, student aid is very important. Pell Grants, A+, other opportunities. Operating and capital budgets depend a lot on legislative money. Grants, we've just secured a couple of very nice grants this year. One, the Talent Search grant that will be taking effect soon over in the western part of the region. Also, all laws that impact higher education. These folks up here work day in and day out. Not to mention, one other person that works in day in, day out, often night in and night out, is Brian Milner, who is our Executive Director, President, CEO of the Missouri Community College Association. So I will do the introductions before we start everybody to speak, and that will be the order. I think the order's on your agenda there. But everyone has 3 minutes, perhaps 3 minutes and 7 seconds, as I said. And there is a question that they've all been presented with, and that question is, what is your perspective of community colleges, and how does that perspective shape your approach to state and or federal appropriations in funding? Okay, I will introduce everyone, and then we'll get started. We are going to go in the order of our representatives from our federal legislators, and then Brian, Senator Hageman, and then the state representatives that are here. Fred Atkins, wave Fred. Fred's representing Senator Roy Blunt. Senator Blunt was elected to the United States Senate in 2010. He serves as the chairman of the Senate Republican Policy Committee and chairman of the Senate Rules Committee. He also serves on the Senate Appropriations Committee, the Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee, the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, and the Senate Rules Committee. Thomas Riggs. Thomas is representing Congressman Sam Graves. Congressman Graves is a lifelong resident of Missouri's 6th Congressional District. As a small businessman and 6th-generation family farmer, Sam has spent his life working to make Missouri a better place to live, work, and raise a family. Welcome, Fred and Thomas. Brian Milner, as I mentioned, Brian is the president and CEO of the Missouri Community College Association. He formerly served as chief of staff at the University of Missouri and as the legislative director for the Missouri Department of Economic Development. Brian began his tenure in September of 2017. Can I call you Dr. Milner yet, or are you real close? Not yet. He's getting there. He's working on his doctorate at Texas Tech, and I don't know how with 3 little ones, a busy wife, a busy schedule, and a doctorate. That's why Brian can stay thin. Senator Dan Hageman, a Republican, represents the 12th Senatorial District, which is comprised of 15 counties throughout northwest Missouri. Andrew, Atchison, Clay, Clinton, Davies, DeKalb, Gentry, Grundy, Harrison, Holt, Mercer, Nottoway, Putnam, Sullivan, and Worth. Representative Rusty Black is a Republican and represents Grundy, Livingston counties and a majority of Lynn County in the Missouri House of Representatives. He was elected to his first term in November of 2016. Unfortunately, Representative Danny Busick, who was going to be here, has a funeral this morning that he has to go to, so Danny will not be attending. Representative Jay Eggleston is a Republican and represents Davies, DeKalb, Gentry, Harrison, and Harrison counties in the Missouri House. That's District 2. He was elected to his first 2-year term in November of 2014. In 2018, Rep. Eggleston was elected by his peers to serve as the Assistant Majority Floor Leader. Representative Randy Railsback, a Republican, represents Caldwell, Ray, Clay, and Clinton counties, District 8. He was elected to his first term in November of 2020. You may know Randy from his time here in the community with the Job Center. Representative Dean Van Scoyoc, a Republican, represents Andrew and Buchanan counties, District 9, in the Missouri House of Representatives. He was first elected in his 2-year term in November of 2020. Let's welcome the legislators and Brian, please. Okay, I believe Representative Blunt, taking the form of this young man over here today, who does have remarks prepared, will address the federal issues first. So let's welcome Fred Atkins to the stand.
Thank you, Doctor. Since I'm one of the few unelected officials up here, I think I'll cut down my usual remarks from 2 hours to an hour and a half. One of the most pressing issues of our time and one of the biggest challenges of our administration was the ever-growing cost of higher education. This, paired with an economy that has exponential higher and higher educational requirements, has resulted in serious systemic workforce issues. The rising cost of education has both resulted in an underqualified workforce and stagnating wages. One of the biggest steps our administration took to solve this issue was increased funding in Pell Grants. As I'm sure you all know, Pell Grants are needs-based grants that can be applied to tuition and other higher education-related costs. This increased funding was the way our administration saw the best way to attack socioeconomic and systemic educational discrepancy. It gives young adults who wouldn't be otherwise able to obtain a world-class education the opportunities. Additionally, our office has co-sponsored the Jumpstart Our Businesses Act. This act is groundbreaking legislation that would help students access training for the 7.3 million high-skilled labor jobs. More specifically, this bill allows for Pell Grants to be used for certificates and training programs that are usually not considered higher education. Research from the University of Virginia shows that students who earned these short-term credentials through community colleges saw wage increases between 20 and 50%. This correlation was enough for us to soundly assert that these short-term certificate programs are substantial tools in increasing wages. Our administration early on realized that there was no one-size-fits-all solution for these educational issues. Our multi-pronged legislative solutions have given students the opportunities that may have not been possible for them in the past. If anyone has any questions about our co-sponsored legislation or our battle to continue to seek increased Pell funding, I'd be happy to answer it after this, or if I can provide you any supplemental information, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. As we noted, I think we're going to get through this in good order today, but when legislators speak, you never know. Some of them, let's just say, have more to say than others at times. So thank you, Fred. So and we will have hopefully a question and answer session after everyone is done. So at this time, Thomas Riggs, Representative Congressman Sam Graves.
Don't clap, it's okay. I just want to thank everybody for inviting us up here today. You know, the Senate's the most deliberative body in the world, which is Fred's boss here. So I represent Congressman Sam Graves. You probably have met him. Most of you know him. He's not too keen on making a big show and talking. So I just want to, thank you for inviting us out today. When we look at education, especially in somewhere such as North Missouri, I think Fred and I have a little bit of a different perspective, being that we are younger. I just turned 24 last week. And no offense to the rest of you guys up here, but you have a little bit more life experience than we do. And I think the thing that kind of stuck out to me most on the way up here, in high school, we were pushed towards going to a four-year university. That was what you had to do. There's a lot of folks that I know who struggled greatly with going to a four-year university. They changed their majors multiple times. They either dropped out. They didn't know what to do. Community colleges provide that gap. If you want to go get your associate's degree, go on, continue your four-year education, that is a great alternative. You could utilize your A+ scholarships, and I don't think enough people do that. And had I been able to do it again, I think that's the route I would have gone down. We look at community partnerships, what NCMC or MACC or Three Rivers down at Poplar Bluff is able to do. They're able to partner with communities to make sure that employers can have their employees be trained at these institutions. They have input. I think we need to focus more on that, and that's what makes community colleges great. The Congressman appreciates all the work that NCMC is doing, and anything we can do to support in the way of funding or in the way of grants, we're more than happy. So thank you, and back to you.
Well, our next speaker is someone I've gotten to know quite well, especially this year as serving as the chair of the presidents and the chancellors of the MCCA. Brian and I talk regularly. Brian is an endless worker. He's extremely savvy in terms of politics, and we're very happy to have him as our leader since 2017. Is that correct, yeah. Brian? So help me welcome Brian Milner.
Good morning. And thank you very much for having me. I say this probably every time that I'm here or have a chance to speak at one of our community colleges. This is the best part of the job, is getting the chance to get out of the office, out of Jefferson City, and be with you on your campus. So thank you for having me. I think this is Dr. Klaver, it's at least my third time participating in the panel, maybe my fourth, but I've been fortunate to get up here to North Central a half dozen times or so, and the weather, it seems like, is always like this up here. So whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because it's phenomenal. So the question, since Christy gave us homework, what is my perspective of community colleges? So I didn't attend a community college, and I have had some on-the-job training. So I've had an opportunity to advocate for and work with our community colleges in the state of Missouri for a total of about 8 or 9 years now. I worked for 4 years previously with a lobbying firm, the lobbying firm that we work with at MCCA, advocating for community colleges, and it was during that time that I really began to understand the value, both from an educational perspective and a community and community support perspective as well. And so, that has enabled me to, over this last 4.5 years in this role, go in and be able to tell the story in the state capitol of what our community colleges are doing, and in DC as well. And I'm honored and privileged to have that job. I've seen it firsthand. I've been able to share the success stories of our colleges, to talk about the work that we're doing in workforce development, the transformation of students' lives that we're making on a day-to-day basis. And we have had some tremendous success of late, and I think it's folks understanding that story now. And it's not me; it's a whole host of people in the Capitol. It's our legislators who are here today who stand up for our students and push to help the community colleges be successful. And I think I want to start by saying a thank you. I know he's not here today, but the fact that Senator Blunt continues to send someone, despite the fact that he is nearing retirement, I think says a lot about the senator and his support for NCMC and our community colleges across the state. He has been, I know this was mentioned, but he has been a tireless advocate for the Pell Grant Scholarship, for year-round Pell, for short-term Pell, for Pell increases, all the things that continue to make community college accessible to our students. And it's obviously one of the 3 tenets here of your strategic plan, and access it's extremely important, and it is the difference between opportunity and a lack of opportunity for many of our students. So please know that we are extremely grateful for Senator Blunt's continued support of community colleges, for the last decade and in his work prior to that. And then I want to turn to our legislators, our state legislators, and say thank you. 2021 was the most successful year that our community colleges have had in Jefferson City in probably a couple decades. And a number of folks sitting here with us today are responsible, frankly, for that support, and we are extremely grateful for that. So just a recap. We have long talked about the need for increased core funding, and I'm going to come back to that in just a second. But in 2021, for this current fiscal year of FY22, the legislators and the governor supported a $10 million core funding increase. That's about a 7.5% core funding increase, and that is by far the largest increase that we have seen in a couple decades. That was in addition to $18 million in funding for maintenance and repair. That's one-time money to help us keep up with the ongoing demands of buildings that are aging and infrastructure that needs to be repaired and maintenance be done. Fully funding A+. So outside of Pell, A+ is another extremely crucial scholarship program that provides access to community college students. It is a $50 million program, and it grew substantially. Probably in light of the pandemic, some students decided to stay home and attend their community colleges, which we think is fantastic. But it means that we needed more funding, and the legislature both backfilled FY21, where there was going to be a shortfall, and then ensured adequate funding for FY22. And the difference that makes in our students' lives isn't something that I can even adequately explain today. I think you all know it, and we appreciate you for taking that step. And then lastly, kind of on that list of things that should be mentioned, is Mo Excels. So the governor and the legislators have been very supportive of one-time funding for workforce development projects, and the community colleges have benefited greatly. We talk about a lot the fact that we serve about 40% of the undergraduate students in the state of Missouri. We receive about 15 or 16% of state funding. When it comes to Mo Excels, we have received almost 50%. I mean, we are getting, certainly what I would say is a fair share, if not the lion's share, of Mo Excels funding, because we are able to prove the impact we can have in the workforce. And I think that resonates with our legislators, it's resonated with the governor, and it has meant real dollars for our colleges over the last couple of years, and all signs point to the continuation of that into FY23 when they go back and begin working on the FY23 budget in January. So, all told, and my math isn't very good, Senator, so you may have to help me here, but all told, I'm guessing that was somewhere in the neighborhood of $40 to $50 million of new money invested in the community colleges for this year over the year prior. So where does that leave us going forward? And I'll wrap up with this. We are extremely grateful, right? We appreciate all the work that you do. The folks that up here with us have other jobs, and they have taken on the selfless task of serving the state of Missouri, and they are expected to be experts on everything from farming to education to social services to healthcare, and it's a really tough job. In 2002, the community colleges hit their high watermark of funding, $153 million total in core appropriations. In FY22, we again reached that high watermark of $153 million in core appropriations. And so the tough job, and these folks weren't serving back then, the tough job is that we're continuing to do more with less. That $153 million doesn't take into account inflation. And so we have seen a 10% growth in enrollment since that time, even more kind of after the peak of the Great Recession. But where we are today is still serving 10% more students than we were back then. And with inflation, that number would probably be about $220 or $225 million. So it's unreasonable for me to sit here and ask for a $75 million increase, and I get that. But what we will share with you all, and what you'll hear from our community college advocates this year is, we appreciate what you have done, and the reason we're back in your office asking for more is because we know that there's still more that can be done for our students, and we are continuing to do more with less, and core appropriations is a place where we need your support the greatest. And so we're sincerely appreciative of everything that you do, and we look forward to the opportunity to continue to work together supporting community college students next year.
Thank you, Brian. Before we get to Senator Hegeman, I know that I have to make one more introduction, and I apologize for failing to do so. Michaela Eads, our student body president, is here today. And I have to tell you a little something about the first meeting we had this year, because I really didn't know you very well. And she goes, I said, well, I hope, sometimes the students don't contribute a lot at the shared governance meeting. She goes, if it's in my head, it's coming out my mouth. And so far that's held true. So welcome, Michaela. Thanks for coming today. And I know you have some questions, whether they're handled now or later, but welcome. And now, Senator Hegeman.
Let me tell you, it's a pleasure to be here again this year. Lenny, I sure appreciate and Christy, more you. I know you do the work. Getting us together here. God bless Roy Blunt. He has been a fantastic senator for us. We will miss him. He's done a lot of great things for the state of Missouri through his time in state government, but also in federal government. And I continue to praise Senator Blunt. Congressman Graves, what a great friend in North Missouri he is. He is one of us. And I like the fact that he's humble and doesn't go seeking the cameras all the time. I think that makes him more North Missourian than anything. I appreciate that. I always say, Sam, I want Sam to be there. I want him to be the Strom Thurmond of North Missouri. I want him to wheel him in there in a wheelchair and have him vote. So I want him to stay there as long as he wants. It'd be hard-pressed to get another farmer into that congressional seat. I think Sam's one of the few true farmers that are still left in Congress, and it's great to see it. Brian, you do a great job for the community colleges. Brian frequents my office quite a bit during the session. During the session, I am the Senate Appropriations Chairman, and so that takes a great deal of my time. I serve on some other committees, small business and economic development, as well as local government and elections, are a couple of them, but the Senate Appropriations Committee takes, it's equivalent to the House Budget Committee, but it consumes most of my time. We're only responsible for trying to divvy up about $35 billion or plus. This year we've got, we'll have some mighty challenges on us again. You've got problems of lack of resources, and then sometimes you have problems of a lot of resources. And this is a year, while I've being an appropriation chairman, we've had some good years. We've had some resources that we've been able to deal with. That's why we were able to do what we could for higher education last year and helping it out because there had been some thin years. I mean, quite honestly, you said, Brian, we're just now back to 2002 level of the core funding. You know, the core goes up and the core goes down, and when we've got good years, I advocate that we need to put more money in the core, which basically is just keeping up with the cost of living, you know, for higher education. When we talk about the core budget, it's what we reappropriate every year, and in the tight years, it decreased. You know, in 2008, I think there were a lot of core cuts. So while we have the ability to do a core increase, we're happy to do that. We are cautious about that because that is ongoing expenses, and the governor loves to hold back on ongoing expenses, and I think the legislature does too. I think my colleagues in the House would agree with that. But I think there are also times when we need to step up and do the ongoing expenses. We will see some of that this year. We will see some demand on ongoing expenses. I think right now my understanding is that higher education, or at least the Department of Higher Education, came in with about a 5.4 CPI increase, which is basically a core increase, is what they'll be asking for both higher education as well as community colleges as well across the board. And I would hope that we could do something along that line. There would be some pushback about it being a ongoing expense and not just a one-time. But I think we have the resources. We've got about $2 billion in the general revenue piggy bank right now. That's more than we've had in a long time. If not one of the highest amounts we've had in there. That's what I'm looking at. Actually, we got a little bit over $2 billion in our general revenue fund. Looking at when we get to the budgeting process, about rolling $2 billion of that over. So that will be you know, money that we could use for core increases, but also address some of the other needs of the state of Missouri, some of the ongoing needs that we're going to see. We've got a lot of pressure on a number of different things this year. I mean, what will inflation do? Not only to the economy of the state of Missouri, but therefore the state government as well. Supply issues, labor shortages, energy prices, you know, they're all going up and things that we'll have to consider. You know, we are finding ourselves to be uncompetitive in the market with the state you know, employees. And so we need to adjust that. We have a hard time keeping people at our that take care of the least able who can take care of themselves. We can't find people to take care of the developmentally disabled. We can't find folks to take care of the veterans' homes. And so some of the veterans' homes are not filled to capacity because we can't find the staff to take care of them. The need is there. The wait lists are still long. We just can't staff up to do that. You see that across the spectrum. That's all the way out there. But we also are finding that in the state government too. And so there will be some need to address that and try to get competitive and really try to fill some of these positions that just must be filled. Corrections is another area. We're having a hard time getting correctional officers. And so we feel that pressure too. So just along the whole gamut of services that the state provides, and many services that it is the right and proper job of the state to provide these services is what we need to take care of. We've got Medicaid expansion going on. How are we going to deal with that? Right now, we're looking at about $1.2 billion worth of Medicaid expansion from the vote and the Supreme Court cases that required us to move into that. We've got $2.8 billion in ARPA funds that we will need to look at dealing with. Now, these will be one-time funds, and these will be funds that we'll look at one-time type of projects to do. Right now, some of the major categories for the ARPA funds are water projects, sewer projects, broadband. The governor's already announced he'd like to see $400 million go into broadband in the state of Missouri, and that's great. And then probably $800 to $900 million in what we consider lost state revenue. That'll allow us to that could be very flexible dollars in the revenue that we perceive that we lost from the COVID situation, and that gives us that amount of money that we can almost treat like general revenue. It's very flexible dollars there. Of course, some of it still would go to ongoing COVID costs as well. And then with the infrastructure package that's come down, that just recently passed in the federal government. We'll be looking at doing that. Now, that's kind of misleading. We're looking at probably about $6.5 billion over a 5-year period for the infrastructure package. Now, much of that would be normally in the transportation and infrastructure bill that Congressman Graves does a lot with on his transportation committee. Normally, we'd get about $5.2 billion with that. So getting $6.5 billion for infrastructure is an additional $1.2 billion. But that money we'll look at trying to allocate in this session too. So those are some of the things that will be facing us. We will continue to support much of the community college's missions. The governor is very supportive of it. I've seen legislators very supportive of it. Our businesses need that train to work for us, so that's why we've done things like, economic development jobs and incentives there. The A+ grants, going forward there, the Access Missouri, Fresh Start, and the MoExcels. I think we'll go a long ways and down the path of funding many of the MoExcels projects again this year, as well as we're getting a number of requests, large project requests from the four-year institutions as well. And so we've got a lot to sort through this year and a lot of opportunity to do some great and good things this year, and looking forward to that opportunity. And it's been a pleasure serving you these past few years, and I look forward to serving you again.
Thank you, Senator. It would be remiss not to mention that both Senator Hegeman and Representative Black won MCCA Legislator of the Year awards for the work they did for higher education. So thank you. Let's give them a hand for that award. Senator Black, ready?
I'm ready.
Always ready.
And for those of you that see me look down, I didn't get my stopwatch going so that I can stay close. Thank all of you that went before me. You've taken, and especially Senator Hegeman, since I serve on a budget committee, about 70% of my thunder. So we can probably do that. The only thing that I'm going to add on the budget talk, I worked on the budget committee. When I was elected, I had a representative that I respected a lot say to me that no longer than you're going to be there, you need to figure out what kind of things that you're interested in serving on and where you want to try to have an impact. And he talked about leadership roles. He talked about being involved strong and working on policy issues, laws, etc., to change. And the third thing was budget. And for my time teaching ag where I was at, and also in my family, budget was the most important thing I thought that I could be involved in the legislature. So that is what I've spent my time on, and I'm hopeful that I've done very little harm while I'm there. As a matter of fact, I hope I've done no harm with that. But with that, I did print out this morning before I come up here, because Senator Hegeman talked about the budget and the fact we are in strong time. The strongest time that I've been in the legislature, when I was first elected, we were cutting. Okay, that we were cutting funds out of different funding, including core funding at the time. That's what it started for both community college as well as higher ed. In a short period of time, it sure seems like things have changed, didn't it? And this is what it looks like as of close of business on November 24th, 2021 at the Department of Revenue for our general revenue. Fiscal year 2022, as of close of business, $4.343 billion, which is tremendous. When I started down there, if we could end up with $10 billion in general revenue a year, that was something to be happy about, and we wouldn't have to cut very deep, etc. Well, if you look at that, and Senator Hegeman's already told us the percentage, if we compare that to last year, that's down $109 million. But both of us know, and most everybody sitting up here, that's really up monster, because some of you will remember you didn't pay your taxes at normal time 2 years ago, that you could pay your taxes in July. So last year we had an extra, $785 million put into at the very beginning of the budget. So if you look at that, you take 785 minus 109, we are still, Missouri is going strong and booming. And it's up to us and Dr. Claver and Mr. Milner till Dr. Milner has talked about budget and the decisions we make and trying to be experts on everything. My goal setting on that committee is to try to spend the pockets of money that the senators talked about as wise as possible. When we spend them, then we turn them over to institutions like North Central Missouri College. And I know that the leaders here, talking with them, being friends with them over the years, are going to do their best to spend that money wisely as well. Because we got to know what dollars are going to be there next year and what dollars aren't. And we need to spend those accordingly. And the senators brought that up. There's some things that we're going to do is good. And I expect at the end of session, Mr. Milner is not going to come in my office being upset. My expectation is things will be better this year at the end of the year than they were this last one that he was happy with. Yeah, I don't need any help on media. Look up rustyblack.com. People don't like me and they let that known. What is your perspective of community college and how does that perspective shape your approach to state and federal funding? My perspective of community college is in the state of Missouri, they are the institution, educational institution that can make the quickest change to meet workforce needs in our state. And they're an integral part of education, whether we're talking about doctorates or certificates. People end up with doctorates that start at community colleges. People end up with fantastic jobs like my son-in-law that's an electrician because of community colleges. If you have wise people running them that work with their community, good things happen and help us survive in Northwest Missouri. The population problems that we have is because agriculture has what? Become so much more efficient and effective, and that's what we ask for it to do. Community colleges are a player in that. So as we look at making agriculture more efficient, North Central Missouri College in Northwest Missouri has a major role in that. As we look at trying to draw businesses in, no matter what that scale is, whether it's something recreation-wise or it's some industry that's going to show up in the town of Trenton or the town of Grant City or wherever it is, North Central Missouri College has a role in that. I believe my job in the legislature is to try to spend state money wisely to help you guys meet your mission at this school. Hopefully when you come listen to me, you listen, and when you show up in my office, I will listen to you. The only thing with at all, and we know, Brian knows that I could end up saying something negative. Lenny knows I could end up saying something negative. There is discussion about a 13th community college, and it's probably not ought to be broadcast on this, but that is something I'm concerned about. I'm probably not going to be real supportive of trying to develop another. I hope the people that are working on that can figure out a way to make that happen in their areas so they can have a good institution like we have here without adding another piece to the pie. So with that, I conclude, Lenny, and it's not that I'm mad, but I'm going to move away from that post so people can get around when they're coming to the microphone. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Representative. And for the record, we think 12 community college districts is just fine. And we hope it stays that way as well. Jay, are you ready? Here we go.
Thank you, Lenny. Coming here, I was trying to remember how many times. It seems like I've been here 2 or 3 times, and it's actually been 7 years that I've been a part of this. I'm not sure if you've had a forum every year, but this is a unique thing. This will be my last time here as a House member. I'll be termed out after next year. I may be back in another capacity, but I appreciate this. This forum is pretty unique among Northwest Missouri. We don't usually get this, and this is pretty special. I'm glad you're putting it on. My role in the legislature, my final year, I chair the Rules Committee. Rules is a committee that's an interim committee between the lower committees that do the initial developing of policy and bills that actually get to the House floor. So I'm sort of the filter. Higher Ed is one of those committees. It's actually, there's a total of 18 different committees that I have to read all of the bills that come from a variety of topics and help decide what our priorities are. So I'm honored to be in that role. I'm a key player on the Ways and Means Committee, which is your tax policy. I'm honored to serve on ethics, as well as the Vice Chair of Government Oversight. Those two committees are trying to make sure that the folks who are in government do so honorably and with good behavior, which is sometimes a challenge, as you might imagine. And then I'm on the Congressional Redistricting Committee. We're meeting this particular year is pretty unique in redrawing the lines where our congressmen's districts lie. So honored to be on all of those, and the Speaker of the House has allowed me to do that. I'll talk about a couple of bills. I'm probably going to do about a half a dozen bills here in my final year. I'll talk about two. They're not necessarily directly related to colleges, but indirectly related really to all of us. One of them is Initiative Petition Reform, IP. Initiative petition is a way for citizens to actually make changes to laws or even our very Constitution. About half of the states in America have an IP system, half do not. Missouri is actually one of the more lenient ones. If you can imagine Fred and Joe sitting around the coffee shop, and Fred says, I think all school buses ought to be purple. And Joe says, well, I agree with that. So they write the language down, they get a bunch of their friends to sign off on it, turn it into the Secretary of State, he puts it on the ballot, people vote on it, and it gets passed. That's IP. That is the true grassroots purpose of initiative petition. Unfortunately, it hasn't really worked like that for a long time. Probably the last initiative petition of a citizen-driven Missouri grassroots would be the Hancock Amendment back in 1980. Since then, we've seen other purposes for IP, and it's usually not folks from Missouri driving it. In 2018, the minimum wage initiative petition came from an outfit called the 1630 Fund. They put $4.8 million in it. They're out of Washington, D.C. Also 2018, Clean Missouri. That came from a group called Action Now. They're out of Texas. Actually, the fellow who ran that, I believe, was a hedge fund manager that was part of the Enron debacle. 2020, Medicaid Expansion. That was kind of the last last chain in the Obamacare idea. That came, 2.5 million of that came from the North Fund, again, out of Washington, D.C. These groups, the 1630, Action Now, North Fund, and groups like that were specifically set up to target Midwestern states with more of the East Coast, West Coast type ideas. And because of that, over time, our Missouri Constitution is now 10 times the size of the United States Constitution. So we're going to be addressing some of that in the legislature next time. I'll probably have a bill on IP reform. I know I've talked to a number of other members. They're going to address that as well. If you start seeing things in the press about IP reform, I wanted you to have some of the backstory as to why that has taken place. And then the second one I'll tell you about is unemployment indexing. The phrase has always been, good help is hard to find. In talking to our employers over the last year or so, I can tell you they're now saying any help is hard to find. This is true of big corporations, little mom and pop stores downtown, and then as Senator Eggman touched on, even our government, right? Our community colleges, our prisons, the veterans home that Randy and I share in Cameron, just finding people to show up to work. And there's a number of reasons why that is, but one of those components is our unemployment system. Right now, if you are able to get on unemployment, then you can collect an unemployment check for 5 months. Now, the idea is to help bridge the gap between the old job and the new job so you can make ends meet. In times when jobs are scarce, you may need 5 months to be able to find a good job. But in times right now when they're plentiful, if you're really seriously looking for work, it's not going to take you 5 months to find a job. Missouri, I saw a report the other day, Missouri is one of 42 states that have more job openings than we have people on unemployment looking for work, which is a very rare and very unusual situation. So what some states have done to address this is they index unemployment, meaning the higher the unemployment rate, the longer you can be on. So when you tie how long you can be on to what the rate is. So I'll probably address that. We've looked at that in the last few years, and I'll probably have something on that as well as some other legislators. Getting back to the original question that you had on the perspective of community colleges and how does that approach funding. For me, the whole purpose of higher ed is to help students get the occupational knowledge and skills that they need to get a job. That's why they pay the tuition. That's why mom and dad sends the kids to the college. And for those institutions that focus on that, you're, I think, going to find a lot of love from the legislature. And there's really no kinds of institutions that do that better than our 2 years. So I think you're going to see a friendly audience in Jefferson City for that kind of funding. I'll wrap up thanking you again. It's an honor to be here. It's pretty special to get to be the voice and face for 37,000 people. Even though I'm about done in the House, the newness of it and the honor and privilege of it has not worn off. It's really special to be with you here today, and thank you again for hosting the forum and having all of us. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay. I just want to echo a sentiment just about everyone has said, is that in the community college, and especially here at North Central Missouri College, being effective and efficient with the use of the money we have is very important to us, and I think that's carried us a long way, not only in the education we provide, but what we've been able to do with the budget money we do have. But it keeps getting a little thinner every year, so anything that we can get in addition, hopefully a good amount, that will help us continue adding new programs that meet workforce demands is going to be greatly appreciated. With that, I'll turn it over to I think if you guys want to switch order here, that's fine with me. I think I had Randy on there first, so why don't we go with Randy? Representative Randy Railsback.
Thank you for asking me. Most of you know me. I spent 18 years over here at Green Hills Regional Planning Commission, and I've been in this building many times. Dean and I were talking a little bit earlier. I think what we need to do is scrape up some funds to help you get some shades for these windows. I've got a blister on the back of my ear over here, I think now, but we're getting our sunshine today, so thanks for that opportunity. Let me tell you, I want to thank Thomas first. I was going to tell him, like, probably I'm the oldest person on this panel, so thanks for not just saying that some of them are just old, but my perspective is that I graduated from Hamilton High School in 1974, and my plan was to attend Trenton Junior College. This was Trenton Junior College. The beginnings of the farm crisis changed all that, and I wound up surviving the farm crisis with my Century Farm and my parents and such, and so what did happen was I became the director of the Regional Planning Commission in Maryville for 12 years, and then over here at Green Hills for 18. But this is one of the best kept secrets we have in North Missouri. My children, my eldest son is a teacher coach at Hamilton. My second son, William, went to school here for 2 years, got his associates, and then finished his 4-year degree at Oklahoma State, and is now the director of the Caldwell County Ambulance. He became a paramedic, and because of this institution, his wife moved up here from Oklahoma when they got married, and she went through nursing school right up here, and she now is a BSRN, and you know, this community college has had tremendous impact on my family, and it is a place where lots of students decide, well, I'm going to go here and then think about what I want to do in the future and where I may want to go, but it's right up the road. You know, I know there's lots of students that live here, but the students that travel here every day and this whole surrounding area is just fantastic. So I can tell you, as I've been asked many times what it was like to become a state representative, and my answer has been, well, I'm a freshman, but I'm not a rookie. I've been down there 1,000 times, and I know a lot about what's going on, but one thing I wasn't really prepared for in this session was how education in general has just been under attack. Mostly from the standpoint of we hear a lot about, well, public schools and charter schools and yes or no, should we have choice and all kinds of different perspectives, but I haven't heard anything like that when it comes to community colleges. Community colleges in Missouri are one of those areas that almost everybody agrees on, that they're successful, they make a tremendous impact, and they're an asset that Missouri can be proud of. And whether we have one more district or not, I don't know, but community colleges shine. In all my discussions and everything I hear, people are very proud of the system we have in Missouri, and it deserves our support and such. So having said all that, this is our best kept secret. Everybody thinks about Trenton Junior College. It's been there forever. Well, look how this has expanded. Look how Dr. Cross and all this has happened, and how this nursing program is the most respected program in the state. I mean, you talk about something we should be proud of in North Missouri, this is it. So my perspective is, I'm proud, and I'm glad that we're able to continue to support, and my guess is I'll probably have grandkids coming here and such. So having said that, thanks for having me, and be glad to answer any questions later.
Thank you, Representative. Well, last on our docket here is Representative Dean Van Scoyoc. And got to know him over the last few months. A very friendly fellow, very much the North Missouri guy, and I think you'll like what he has to say.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you. I am Dean Van Scoyoc. I'm very honored to represent the 9th District, Andrew and Northeastern Buchanan counties. And I am more than excited, I'm thrilled to have North Central Community College coming to Savannah, Missouri. We are thrilled to have you. I'm also thrilled that Buchanan County is now going to be in North Central's district, and the partnership that you'll have with Missouri Western will be outstanding. I've had made conversations with Dr. Kennedy at Missouri Western, and she never fails to bring up partnering with North Central and the things that she looks forward to doing with North Central and working together to help students achieve their goals. Folks, that's what it's about. It's about helping students. It's about helping students find a pathway for their life, find a job, a career that they're passionate about, that they're concerned about, that they want to do for the rest of their life. It's not, I hope for them, it's like me, that it's not just a job, it's a life. I've always told my wife I'm very blessed to have always had jobs, being a farmer, an auctioneer, real estate broker, and now a state representative, jobs that I love to do, jobs that I'm passionate about. And I would wish that for every student everywhere. Everybody should have a job that they love and that they're passionate about. And community colleges are an integral part of that, just as Rusty Black said. You know, I got up here, being the last person, I thought, well, everybody's going to take my turn, and pretty much they did. And that's as it should be. But I am very excited to have North Central College coming to Savannah. We're thrilled to death, and it's going to be a great fit for Savannah, for North Central Missouri College, and for the whole Northwest Missouri region. We are in the great Northwest of Missouri, and we appreciate you and thank you.
Well, thanks to everyone. We're very proud to have you representing us, and we plan nothing more than to work together for the betterment of people of Northern Missouri, in particular our students. So I think we have about 5 to 7 minutes here for some questions, so that turned out pretty well. Does anybody from the audience have a question that they'd like to pose to one, or all might take a while, but...
my question is...
And identify yourself, please.
Clayton Anderson from News Press. My question is, I guess it can be for anyone, but it's directly kind of to State Senator Dan Hageman and Representative Rusty Black because of their budget and appropriations positions. I know that a lot of the pushback from Medicaid expansion was due to maybe other programs not being funded fully. I know that I was talking about indication that, there was a being afraid that those spots could lose funding. Is that still a concern? I know Senator Hagan talked about how he feels the budget's a good spot, but I was just wondering if that's brought any concern.
Yeah, I'll take that. Yes, it is still a concern. The ballot issue went on the ballot without a funding mechanism to support it, which is why it went to the courts. There's a constitutional provision that says initially petition ballot issues can't go on and basically budget items without a funding source to go correspondingly along with it. That particular issue did not have a funding source. So the fact that we have resources to deal with that right now is one thing. We do have the resources to be able to deal with it now, but in the future, it will put pressure on a general revenue fund in the state of Missouri, and that's the general revenue fund is what we use to fund elementary and secondary education, higher education, corrections, our public safety, to some extent. Basically many of the functions of government are funded out of general revenue, which is our most discretionary dollars. And I will tell you in the future, it will impact that general revenue. Now, we're hoping to do some things that may moderate that and extend that timeline for it to impact maybe down the road, but eventually it will impact the state of Missouri, and especially if the federal government would ever change the formula on this Medicaid expansion to the more traditional 65 to 35 type of formula, then it would greatly impact the state of Missouri.
I'll be quick, because as normal, the senator said exactly the same thing I'm going to say. It's much the idea that today, and even at the point when that discussion was going on, we were going through COVID, et cetera, and it looked like it might be a real crisis because constitutionally we were supposed to fund it even without the funding mechanism we talked about. So that would have, at that point, had many of us concerned on Budget Committee that somebody was going to get cut, whether it was community colleges or whether it was on roads and highways, a little bit of the general revenue that goes there, or conservation department that we can't touch their money, department bag, et cetera. So today, it doesn't seem like a stress point. I do see it growing into a stress point as we increase the size of government. Just exactly the road I went down with making a 13th community college. That's one more piece put into that pie that somebody's going to have to pay for sometime in the future. So we have to be wise at that.
Thank you. Another question. While I'm waiting for a handed question, I want to thank the students for being here today. Professors Recker and Mary Ellen Harmon had some of their students attend, so thanks for coming. We really appreciate it. Question. Kayla, have a question? One of your questions? Okay, you'll save yours for after a while. Okay, well, why don't you repeat the question?
Yeah, I can do that. Thanks, Christy. So Christy's question was, what do I think the biggest impact community colleges are going to have in the next 5 years? I think it probably comes down to our ability to be nimble and to change with the needs of the workforce. Right now, we're seeing tremendous gaps in healthcare and IT and other fields where there is a growing need, and we're able to respond to that need, better than anybody. And so I think it's probably what has been a staple for community colleges and will continue to be, but our partnerships with employers allow us to be present and capable and able to serve the community and the business community in that way. So there are probably, it feels like more and more we're in a time of change, and so there will probably be things in the next 5 years that we can't even predict right now that are going to be necessary in terms of jobs and the workforce, and I think that's where community colleges will continue to shine. And I'll make one more plug because I'm up here and just say that the trend has been over the last however many years that training for those jobs costs more and more money, right? Training in these IT fields, in healthcare, it costs more, and that's one of the reasons why we're so appreciative of the support that we get from a financial perspective, right? All of the Mo Excels projects have been to support needs in workforce, and without those, we don't have the funds to stand up programs that are vital for the community. And so I definitely think that's going to be an area where we'll have a lot of impact. Good question.
Chris.
Yeah. So, yeah. Thank you. I'll clean up this mess for you. No. No. It's a balance, right? So we talk all the time about access, and we passionately, vehemently believe in access to higher education. It's what community colleges do. It's what we're here for. The 13th community college discussion is one that's kind of gone back and forth and stems from a group of individuals. It's in Cape Girardeau. That's where the discussion is happening. So they have Southeast Missouri State University. They are served technically by Three Rivers College down in Poplar Bluff. So Cape Girardeau is part of the Poplar Bluff service region. And some folks down there have explored or considered exploring other options. And so, you know, as needs change and personalities change, those relationships, you know, kind of differ. And so I think what we're seeing right now is just trying to figure out how to get everybody to play together in the sandbox. So CMO having partnerships with Mineral Area College and with Three Rivers College, ensuring that all the needs are met in that area. You know, and it's kind of similar to what happened in St. Joe, right? You know, the plates shift a little bit, and then we've just got to make sure that we're responding to the needs. So you know, why not a 13th community college? We have you know, 12 public community colleges, and Senator help me out, 13 I think public 4 years, so 25 institutions in a state of 6 million people. Just every one that we add to that list means that we're taking this finite amount of resources and we're splitting it up over, you know, more institutions. And so I think that probably does a disservice to the state of Missouri. And I think there are ways that we can serve every community in the state. I mean, we did that in the early 90s when we created our service regions. I think the community colleges and the higher ed system is capable of serving every citizen in the state of Missouri with the institutions that exist as they are today. So.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep, okay.
And as Brian mentioned, those 12 service regions cover north to south and east to west. We cover the whole state. Not bragging on our relationships, but the relationships we've had with Northwest Missouri State and Missouri Western, both being in our service region, have worked very well. And we would encourage the people in the southeastern part of the state. Mineral Area and Three Rivers are great colleges. I hope that Southeast finds a way to work with them effectively in the way what their citizenry wants for higher education. Okay, before we conclude, and we are out of time, I want to thank Trenton's Finest for being here today. Thanks, guys. Also, we have several other people come in. So as a line I've used before in some presentations from a song, it said, well, wherever we were going, well, we're here. And we're here, and there's only one place to go, and that's forward. So we look forward to our legislators, our people at the school, our students, everybody move forward. That's what we're here for. Thank you for attending today.